Members, well, other than the Development Bureau, we also have representatives from the Innovation, Technology and Industry Bureau, the Transport and Logistics Bureau, the Education Bureau, the Culture, Sports and Tourism Bureau, and the Environment and Ecology Bureau to join us at the meeting. I'd like to first invite the administration to take us through the paper. Secretary. Members, so now we are into the next session, focused mainly on the Northern Metropolis. So the Northern Metropolis is a strategic development area in Hong Kong. It is very important to the development in Hong Kong. The Northern Metropolis will provide more than 3,000 hectares of new development land, and that will overcome the land shortage for development in the past. The NM is not only important to the development of Hong Kong, it can also provide land and act as an important platform so that Shenzhen and other GBA cities could participate in the overall GBA development. And due to its importance, the Chief Executive in his policy address has emphasized once more the importance of the Northern Metropolis. And now there are 3 working groups under the CE to focus on the future development of the Northern Metropolis. And each working group will play an important role in the different development, and this reason why we have invited other bureaus to join us at the meeting today. The Northern Metropolis is now in its building stage. In the next few years, through land resumption, site formation, we would see more and land being put to use. In the next 5 years, we would see around 900 hectares of spade-ready sites with over 70,000 new residential units and creating economic space. In the next decade, we would see 1,800 hectares of land with over 240,000 units of residential units and over 1,500 hectares of land for economic development. Therefore, it is an appropriate time for us to focus on the development of Northern Metropolis. Therefore, we have set up a dedicated legislature on the Northern Metropolis, and we will provide an update on this legislation to members at a later stage. Members may have seen that we have now started our tender for the large land disposal at Hong Shui Kiu, and we are not reclaiming land. We are just using the land that is existing in the Northern Metropolis. Therefore, we must need to speed up our work. We would continue to be people-oriented to help people relocate. There is a very unique characteristic in the Northern Metropolis. Therefore, we hope that we will also be able to spread this kind of culture to other areas, and we would also bring this up to members on some of the policies we are going to implement for urban and rural area development. We are going to try to speed up the process so that people can benefit from this development as soon as possible. And that would also help us in our role as a super connector and super value adder. I would now like to invite the Director of Northern Metropolis Coordination Office, Ms. Linda So, to share with us her PowerPoint. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members. I would be very brief in giving members an overview on the Northern Metropolis. The Northern Metropolis Development Strategy was announced in 2021 with the vision of developing the NM to become a new development area. And in 2023, we strengthened this plan to become the Northern Metropolis Action Agenda. In the action agenda, we emphasize that we must take upon an industry-driven approach for the NM development. The NM can provide a lot of industrial land, which can also help us overcome the bottleneck of land shortage for industry development experienced in the past. We are talking about 30,000 hectares, which is about 1/3 of Hong Kong. It can create over 3,000 hectares of new development land, and the NM can also provide 500,000 job opportunities. And population can reach 2.5 million, which is around 1/3 of the population of Hong Kong. We are going to divide the NM into 4 major zones, which have been put under careful consideration. We hope that each of these could be positioned strategically. Well, to the west, you see the high-end professional services and logistics hub. So this connects Qianhai and Nanshan. It can actually has potential for developing professional services such as legal services and logistics services. And due to its strategic location, we hope that Hong Shui Kiu can become one of the important hubs of where mainland enterprises could leverage on Hong Kong's professional services, and enterprises overseas can also make use of Hong Shui Kiu to go into the mainland. We want to set it as a modern logistics center because we can adopt the East in, East out, West in, West out strategy for cross-boundary free traffic. So to the west, they would use a Shenzhen Bay port, and then towards the east, they would use Lintong, and so Hong Shui Kiu is at its very strategic location. It is very close to the Hong Kong International Airport, only about 20 minutes away. You may have noticed that 32 hectares have been reserved in Hong Shui Kiu for transport network. We would also set up a 23-hectare industry park in Hong Shui Kiu. The government has already set up enterprise and technology park sites to manage the area. Other than the enterprise and technology park, 9 hectares have been reserved for the university town. For Yao Tam Mei, land will also be used for university, and altogether there will be 100 hectares to develop the NM University Town. You can see Hong Shui-Kiu on the map. Due to its location, there would also be a Hong Kong-Shenzhen Western Rail link. Our goal is to have the rail link commissioned in 2035. We are also building the Hong Shui-Kiu station for the Tuen Ma line at the moment, and we would be able to use this by 2030. And traffic will be very convenient once it is commissioned. Towards the north of Hong Shui-Kiu, there is Lao Fao Shan. I'm sure you're very familiar with Lao Fao Shan. And Jin Pei Choi and Park Nai in Lao Fao Shan could be developed into ecotourism nodes due to the wealth of ecotourism characteristics. We have invited the submission of expressions of interest for developing Jin Pei Choi and Park Nai. And near Yuen Long South, it will be primarily residential area. Towards the east, we would see the Innovation and Technology Zone. It connects Sentient Technopole, Ngau Tam Mei, and Altao NDA. Sentient Technopole can actually create a synergy with the Hetao Cooperation Zone, which has already opened up last year. The first 3 buildings in the Hong Kong Park of the Hetao Cooperation Zone have been completed, and another 5 buildings are currently under construction. Other than these 8 buildings, the land would gradually be leased out in the coming months. In the Hetao Cooperation Zone, in order to strengthen the network with the other side, the Hong Kong Park and the Sentient Technopole would then be connected. So we believe that this Western Bridge will be completed. This Western Cross River Link Bridge project will be completed next year. Innovation and technology is very important to Hong Kong. Therefore, the Northern Metropolis will bring us a large area of INT land. Well, currently, with the Science Park and Cyberport, we already have a certain land for IT. The NM can provide 300 hectares, and together with Salem, we would be able to provide 225 hectares of land for innovation and technology. Other than the Sentient Technopole, towards the south, you would see Ngau Tam Mei. Ngau Tam Mei would be used for the university town, and our 3rd medical school would also be in Ngau Tam Mei. In line with the Sentient Technopole development, there would also be a hospital built, or a teaching hospital built in Ngau Tam Mei. And through cross-boundary services, it could lead us to the new port, and we hope that we'll be able to bring in more private residential areas. And more towards the east, you would see the Boundary Commerce and Industry Zone. This is the largest area in the Northern Metropolis. and it covers 3 boundary control points. And because of its large area, we would be developing green development, and we can actually have this become a modern logistics hub. And we have also reserved around 40 hectares of land for developing the university town.
Another NDA here is Fanling North and Kutong North. It is the area that enters the construction phase first. Kutong North will see government offices. There will be large-scale government complexes in Kutong North. And for government departments that are currently situated in core business districts will be relocated to this area. There will also be cultural and sports facility. The last zone is blue and green, recreation, tourism, and conservation circle. There are rich cultural heritage and natural resources in this zone. We do not have plans to develop large-scale infrastructure. Instead, we want to make use of the resources to promote ecotourism, and this is complementary to the Yantian district in Shenzhen. Now I'd like to move on to talk about major transport infrastructure in the Northern Metropolis. We follow the principle of infrastructure-led and capacity creating to tie in with the development of the Northern Metropolis. The first project is the Northern Link project, as well as the Northern Spur line. For Kutong Station of the East Rail Line, it is already under construction. We believe that by 2027 it could be commissioned. As for the North Main Line, it will be connected to Tuen Ma Line as well as East Rail Line. In Kutong Station, there will be interchange station. There are also other interchange stations. As for the Northern Spur Line, it will start from Santin Station and it will go to the Santin Technopole as well as the Loop, and it will be connected to the Shenzhen Huanggang Port. The government will adopt an innovative mindset to combine all these construction works. Our goal is that by 2034 or earlier, the Northern Main Line as well as the Spur Line will be commissioned concurrently. Another major transport infrastructure would be the Hong Kong-Shenzhen Western Rail Line. We are currently working at full steam on this project. Our goal is that in 2035, this line will be commissioned. The entire ride will be 15 minutes long and will be able to connect Shenzhen, Hongshui-Q, and Shanghai to open up the entire transport network on both sides. As for the Hongshui-Q station on Tuen Ma Line, we're again working at full steam. We hope that by 2030 the station will be commissioned. We hope that by then it will be connected to the Tuen Ma Line. The third project is the Northern Metropolis Highway. You can see on the chart here, it will link up the north and eastern part, and it will be 24 kilometers long, and we will develop it in 4 stages. Our goal is that by 2036 we can commission the Santin section first. We will launch the tendering exercise next year in order to meet the target. Another transport infrastructure project is in Hongshui-Q. We will build a smart and green mass transit system. We hope that this year we'll be able to invite tenders for this system. Our goal is to commission the system by 2031. Apart from developing infrastructure, there are many diverse habitats as well as natural resources in the Northern Metropolis. We hope that while we develop housing and land, we can create development capacity in the Northern Metropolis so that we can pursue conservation and development in parallel. We have done some important work. First, In the blue and green conservation circle, we have the Robin's Nest Country Park. It takes up an area of 530 hectares. It was established in 2024, and it is now the 25th country park in Hong Kong. Another example is the Long Valley Nature Park in Kwu Tung North. Again, this park was opened in 2024. There are different habitats in Long Valley Nature Park, including wet farmlands, water-free ponds, as well as marshes. So this is a very good habitat for wildlife. We're now working at full steam to develop the Shanpo Shu Wetland Conservation Park so that we can achieve our objectives of conservation, eco-education, and recreation and tourism development. The first phase of construction will commence in 2026 or 27 the earliest, and we hope to complete the construction work in 2031. For the entire park, we hope that it could be completed by 2039 or earlier. At the same time, the AFCD is conducting a feasibility study on the development of a coastal protection park there. We want to conserve the deep bay wetland ecosystem and provide outdoor eco-recreation space there. For this slide, it gives you an idea of the development progress of different projects. There are many numbers here, but to summarize, as mentioned by the Secretary, at this stage we are processing at full steam. We're at a critical stage. In the coming 5 years, be it land or economic floor area or housing supply, we will see exponential growth. From economic floor space, in these few years we're talking about 30,000 square meters, but soon we will see an increase to 1 million square meters, and in the next 10 years we will see the economic floor space reaching 10 million square meters. Now I will talk about our major work. As mentioned, there is this Committee on Development of the Northern Metropolis chaired by the Chief Executive, and there are also 3 working groups under this committee chaired by different secretaries. Under their leadership, our goal is to enact a dedicated legislation for speeding up Northern Metropolis development. We hope to remove barriers and restrictions to take forward the development of the Northern Metropolis. We will come up with the primary legislation and an overarching framework. We will empower the CE in Council to make subsidiary legislations so that the government can, based on the circumstances, enact legislations if needed. And also, if necessary, they could adjust the measures, and we hope that the LegCo could play a gatekeeping role. In Q1 this year, we will launch a public consultation exercise, and by the middle of this year, we will table the legislative proposals, and we hope that we can finish the exercise within this year. To speed up the large-scale development in the Northern Metropolis, we have set up a dedicated office, and it is led by the Permanent Secretary of the Development Bureau. A reporting mechanism is set up to speed up the progress of the project. In January this year, we announced the relevant arrangement and details. Also, we have proposed a number of development approaches. In the interest of time, I'll focus on 3 of the approaches. First, large-scale land disposal. Under this approach, there are 3 pilot points: Hong Shui Kiu, Fanling North, and Shantin Technopole. For Hong Shui Kiu, last year we used the two-envelope approach for open tender. We also introduced facilitation measures. For example, we allow developers to pay the premium in phases. We're also extending the tenancy term to 7 years. We want to encourage participation, and under the two-envelope approach, 70% is on price and 30% is on non-price proposal. We want to encourage high-quality enterprises to set up operations there to speed up development. Also, we have established an industrial park company wholly owned by the government. We want the company to leverage market forces. We will adopt public-private partnership approaches to speed up the development of industries in the Northern Metropolis. We are taking forward the preparatory work. Our goal is that by the first half of this year, we will finish the preparation work so that it could start operating soon. The other approach is called phased development. We learn from the 1.5 level development concept in the mainland. That is, we allow for low-density facilities such as retail, entertainment, or convention and exhibition facilities to be developed first to attract businesses. We will use Hongshui-Kyu Town Center as a pilot site. We are now carrying out the preparatory work, and hopefully the work could be finished soon. At the final stage, we'll have to bring in enterprises. We have been working with Oasis as well as Invest Hong Kong to bring in enterprises of strategic importance to the Northern Metropolis. Lastly, concessionary measures. The Financial Secretary has led the relevant policy bureaus to roll out concessionary measures, such as land grant, and so on. This is to attract enterprises to establish presence in the Northern Metropolis. Lastly, I'm not going to go into detail, but I want to give an idea to members about the major tasks that we will focus on in the coming year. As I said, we are working on the dedicated legislation to speed up the development of the Northern Metropolis. Moving forward, we will continue to work with different policy bureaus to promote industry development. For example, we will work on the data cluster at Sandy Ridge as well as the Hongshui-Kyu Company. We will apply for funding approval at LegCo to take forward the works in the new development areas. Integration of urban-rural areas is also one of our major tasks. We will brief members on this in the coming panel meetings. Thank you. Members who would like to speak, please press the request to speak button now. 9 members have asked to speak. Again, I'm going to give each member 3 minutes. Please watch the time and please leave enough time for the administration to respond to your questions. Mr. Mark Chong. Chairman, I have a question. I know that we need to spend a lot on this Northern Metropolis project, but how much money in total? No one ever mentioned it. The Northern Metropolis project is chopped into pieces, and the government keeps coming to the LegCo to ask for funding. For example, there is a part about research and design, another part about site formation, and all these require funding approval. I remember February last year, as for the waterworks facilities, it asked for $400 million, and for the Outtown May water plant, the government asked for another $400 million. I don't need a concrete figure from the administration, but can we at least have a ballpark figure? I understand that the government is now drafting the budget. We've been calling for more bonds to be issued by the government, and the Financial Secretary said earlier that he would consider this proposal. I want to know how much the government is spending on the Northern Metropolis, and only if we have this idea that we know how many bonds the government can issue. Also, the TLB representatives are here, and I hope that there could be a cross-link railway service between Hong Shui Kiu and Sunny Bay. Thank you.
Secretary. Well, I'll take the first question, and then the Undersecretary for Transport and Logistics can take the second question. Well, it's not the first time that this question of how much money would be required to develop the Northern Metropolis. I hope you understand that this 3,000 hectares of land will be developed over many years. Well, we would need to make static adjustments over the years. We may start off with something, and then we might need to change plans at a later stage. We can't really give you a ballpark figure on the entire project, and we do not want to give you an estimate. Even if members understand, it might give rise to many misunderstandings in the community. We do not want this to become an issue. Instead, when we are developing a certain area, and then we would come up to LegCo, to the Finance Committee, to ask for money. And that includes a BOT, large land disposal, and in situ development, etc. All these would be part of the figure. And this money is actually driven by the market. We do not just give you an estimate at the moment. I'm sure you would see how it would venture after the first phase of development. Mr. Liu will take the second question. Well, on extending the Hong Kong Shenzhen Western Rail link to Sunny Bay, we have heard your views, and we would consider this prudently. They have left flexibility at the HSWRL, which could be extended at a future date. Mr. Chong has already mentioned in the financial panel that the extension would be economically beneficial as it could lead to the airport. We would consider very carefully the connections. You have to understand, however, that if we are to extend it to Sunny Bay, that would involve a very large project, and therefore we would need to be careful of the budget. Well, let me read out the members who are waiting to speak. Mr. Aaron Bok, Ms. Maggie Chen, Mr. Ray Wong, Mr. Lam Chen Sing, Mr. Tam Chun Kong, Ms. Priscilla Leung, Mr. Yu Ming, and Mr. Lau Ka Keung. Mr. Aaron Bok, please. Thank you, Chairman. I have 3 questions. First, on the dedicated legislature, I see that a public consultation will be started in the first quarter. Could we actually have this discussed at the LegCo before the public consultation so that our ideas could be taken into consideration? Second question, there are 680 hectares of private land that need to be resumed, which is about the size of 40 Victoria Parks. How can you ensure that the land could be reverted to the government by the deadline, and it might very often be delayed, and work would then be delayed as well? Third, on attracting strategic enterprises to come in. other countries would provide tax concessions to attract enterprises to come in, but it might actually be restricted by WTO regulations. How can we go around and try to provide tax concessions to attract more strategic enterprises to come into Hong Kong? Secretary, the first question on dedicated legislation. Once we know what the legislation will cover, we will, of course, first bring it up to LegCo. So through discussion with LegCo, we would then have a better idea on how to kick off the public consultation. We believe that we would be able to submit a bill to LegCo in mid-2026 with a view to complete the legislative work within the year. But we would, of course, first come up to LegCo to give you a framework before we submit the bill. We will need to resume about 600 hectares of land in the upcoming 5 years. We have always been working on land resumption, and I could say that in general it has been smooth. We comply with our current policy. Landowners and tenants would be compensated, and most people are very understanding. In recent years, we do not see many conflicts arising from land resumption. But as I said in my introductory remarks, we cannot be complacent. Land resumption is very tough work, and we must take this very prudently. On attracting strategic enterprises to come in, we must not forget that our current tax framework is already very attractive. We are a low tax regime. However, if we are to provide other tax incentives, the Financial Secretary will consider the individual situation or case and then see whether further incentives could be given. Secretary, you said that the dedicated legislation would be first brought to the LegCo. I understand that it would involve different policies. I want to clarify whether it would be led by the Development Bureau and whether you would first come to this panel to share with us the content of the proposed legislation. Well, yes, it would be like today's meeting where non-members of this panel could attend. Thank you. Ms. Maggie Chan. In relation to the NM development, it involves 1/3 of Hong Kong, providing 500,000 job opportunities and 500,000 residential units. In the last LegCo term, I asked before the opportunities for young people in this development. We must put this into consideration at an early stage. I still want to know more about residential units. Would you provide us with the public-private housing ratio? And a question on childcare. In the last term, I heard that childcare services will be provided 100 per 25,000 residents, which I do not think is adequate. Would you consider increasing the quota? last year at the policy address, the Chief Executive introduced the setting up of this dedicated legislation. He Tao is in a different zone. We want to open up connection between these two sides, especially in the sharing of data. Can we ensure that we would follow the laws in Hong Kong so that we could ensure that it will be on par with international legislation and practice? Secretary, on the third question on adopting Hong Kong laws and arbitration, I take your views and I would consider this carefully. On the ratio of private-public housing, when we open up new development areas in accordance with today's policy, it will be on a ratio of 30% private to 70% public housing. However, when we're talking about specific themes, let's say Ngau Tam Mei, as Ngau Tam Mei would be part of the university town, then private housing should be the majority to adapt to the needs of university teachers and students. We would make adjustments in accordance with the theme of the sites. In relation to childcare and youth opportunities, this is actually a micro question. We are still looking at the macro development of the NM at the moment. A lot of land has been reserved for community facilities, and we will leave it up to the relevant bureaus on how to make good use of the land. Same goes for youth opportunities. I'm sure young people will have more opportunities with a new development area, but we are not specifically emphasizing on youth development in that area at the moment. Mr. Ray Wong, I see that many brownfield sites would be taken back for development, and that Hong Kong would become a commodity trading center in a few years, which could bring in RMB clearing and so forth. So we must look into the weight of LME trading commodities, because if we are to provide warehouses for this, then we would need to consider the weight for the metals as well, and also to introduce wide planning to ensure that these warehouses could ensure that they could be internationally recognized. Transportation is also an important factor. So if we are to build an LME warehouse, and we could not just use normal vehicles. We must also ensure that the carriageways are suitable for heavy vehicles as well. Thank you.
Secretary. I'd like to share members about this. We involve multiple layers of plans. We have reserved a lot of land for logistics purposes in the northern metropolis. logistics can cover a lot of areas. We would not specify particularly which plot of the land would be for commodity trading and which plot of land would be for other purposes. As for what the markets actually need, I think it would involve the work of the TLB. Say, for example, there are enterprises that would like to engage in commodity trading and warehousing. They could tell the government, and then the government will then decide how to proceed with the tendering exercise as well as drafting a lease with certain terms and conditions. If we're not talking about ordinary logistics service, we have to specify it in the tender document because we are not launching a tender exercise for ordinary logistics